Alright, what's the deal with your boy Love One to Hate One in the building with your boy Gil, and we back at y'all with another radio call. You guys already know we finna cook, and we got this interesting topic, this interesting fight, in my opinion, that I feel is coming up between George Kambosos and Richardson Hitchins. And this fight is really heating up right here. You guys, I'm pretty pissed off because me and Gil did a call on this yesterday, but my dumb ass accidentally deleted the shit. And so, you know, we're just gonna we're gonna finish where we left off at. And Gil, you basically remember everything you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, me too. Okay, you guys, when this fight first got announced, I was telling myself, I'm like, ain't nobody really want to see this shit. George Kambosos basically getting a payday. George Kambosos really have a problem with movers, good boxers, etc. But I always tell people the one pro about George Kambosos, and he does this very good, he knows how to get into your head and make you want to come out guns blazing. Now, when he fought Lomachenko, I felt he was too respectful towards Lomachenko. Didn't really talk a lot of shit towards Lomachenko. And Devin Haney, he's just a bad style matchup for George Kambosos. Period. And one thing about Devin Haney, he stuck to the game plan. He was disciplined against George Kambosos, and he outboxed him clearly. All right. But, and another thing about George Kambosos, he's not a bad fighter, but I do feel like he's, you know, he's very overrated. And he got pretty lucky to win undisputed against Teofimo Lopez, because we all know Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos was all up in his head. So it was basically Teofimo Lopez fought with his emotions, and George Kambosos took advantage of that. And it's looking like possibly the same thing can happen with Hitchins. Hitchins is talking about betting money. He's talking about he's going to stop him. He's going to knock out George Kambosos. You know, he's not going to run, etc. And it's looking like George Kambosos is in Hitchins' head, man. You know, like I said, Hitchins, he needs to come in this fight, stay disciplined, use his height, his boxing ability, his size or whatever. But from what it's looking like, man, George Kambosos can possibly make Hitchins fight his type of fight, which is a firefight. That's the type of fight that George Kambosos wants. And if he does that, George Kambosos can possibly win this fight. Now, you guys, I do got Hitchins winning this fight if he fights his game plan, which is use the jab, use his foot movement, outbox him. I do feel like Pyro, styles make fights though, but Pyro is a better fighter than George Kambosos, and I feel like Hitchins got some better wins than a George Kambosos. But like I told you guys, George Kambosos, he got like that kind of Ricardo Mayorga in him. Like that's the reason Vernon Forrest lost to Ricardo Mayorga. Mayorga was talking shit. He was all in. Vernon Forrest, may he rest in peace, he was all up in his head. And what happened? He came out and lost twice to Ricardo Mayorga. Now, we know Vernon Forrest is a better fighter than Ricardo Mayorga, but he still lost. The same shit with Hitchins and fucking George Kambosos. We know Hitchins is a better fighter. But if he come out in this fight and fight with his emotions, George Kambosos can pull off this fucking upset again. But like I said, I got Hitchins winning the fight, but it won't shock me, especially being that I feel like George Kambosos is in Hitchins' head if he loses this fight. What's your thoughts on it, Gil?
I think Kambosos needs to be a little bit dirty early, just to get Hitchins off his game and not let him focus on the game plan. Because like you said, Hitchins has a style that's difficult for Kambosos. So his best bet is to get him off his game early, maybe taking cheap shots in the back of the head or doing stuff that he's not supposed to really. Just early, kind of get a couple warnings in there and get Hitchins off his game, and then unfocused. And when you're unfocused, you're going to make mistakes. That's the best scenario for Kambosos. Like you said, he's really good at getting you kind of ticked off, making mistakes. So I think that's what he's trying to do. by talking all this smack, trying to get him to do things that he doesn't normally do. But I think Hitchens has an understanding of that. I think he might be trying to play mind games too, kind of make it sound like he's not taking him seriously, like he's gonna go off on him quick. But I think it's all a game plan.
You know, that's true too when you put it that way, because I've seen fighters do that before. Like, they'll come in the press conference and, you know, act like, oh, I'm gonna go toe to toe with you and I'm gonna knock you out, and then when the actual fight comes into play, they end up, you know, fighting their regular fight, staying on the outfoot, boxing them, you know, and shit like that. I've seen that shit happen countless of times. So maybe
I'm sure he's seen that fight with Teofimo Lopez, and he knows not to make that mistake. I'm sure his corner is pointing that out. So I think they're gonna have him on his P's and Q's. But don't be surprised if Kambosos takes a couple of cheap shots early to get him off his game plan, get him upset, get him rattled up.
That'll actually be smart if he does that. If he comes out and, you know, not only outside of the fight you're basically getting into his head, but inside of the fight too, doing things to, you know, fuck with him and shit like that. So I could definitely see that.
It makes him wanna chase him around instead of cut off the ring. You're not really focused on what you got to do. You want to get to him and put it on him.
Oh, of course.
So that makes you make mistakes.
Exactly.
So.
But let me say this. One thing I could say about Hitchens, you could tell, and I've noticed this even when he fights. He don't like to get booed, and his type of style, people will boo you with that type of style. That, I mean, he's not as bad as Shakur Stevenson, but you could tell he don't like the boos, man. So I feel like that alone can make him want to fight more. And I feel like he wants to come in this fight and put on a show, you know, for Australia. And let's not forget, this fight is going down in Australia. So it's not like he's fighting at home, you know, where it's like his hometown. He got to go out there and really beat George Kambosos. And so I personally feel like, man, Hitchens, man, if he let the crowd get to him, it could be a bad night for Richardson Hitchins, man. For real.
Do you think Kambosos has a better chance if he makes it a little bit boring, kind of get the crowd to boo a little bit, and then go at him?
That's smart, man. It will favor him, because if the crowd is booing, then you know that favors fucking Kambosos. So, but I don't know if Kambosos can really win rounds off making it boring, because what is he gonna do? He's gonna throw a jab out there. Is he gonna run against Hitchens?
Do you think you should counter and then jab to the stomach, and then move around and try to pot shot as much as you can?
If he can, I don't.
Or do you think he needs to come at him and go at him that way?
I mean, if he can do that, I mean, to Hitchens, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing that. But if I'm George Kambosos' coach, I'm just telling George Kambosos to take it to Hitchens. Take it to him, you know, because everything George Kambosos throws, whether it lands or not, the crowd is going to go crazy. So if he takes it to him, he don't even have to land all his shots, and he could bank in rounds that way too. And it will kind of force Hitchens to kind of go to plan B, because I think plan A, I think Hitchens is coming out there to put it on George Kambosos, to put it on George Kambosos and really embarrass him in his hometown. But of course, we'll never know until the fight starts. But the way they're talking, man, they're talking about meeting in the center of the ring, and that could be detrimental towards either guy, you know. And George Kambosos does have like some sneaky power over there too. Don't sleep on his power. I personally feel like Devin Haney, you know, when he fought George Kambosos, Devin Haney was making George Kambosos miss and shit like that. But George Kambosos has some decent power. It's like the type of power you can't sleep on. But yeah.
My thing is this, bro. When you're in there with a boxer, you want to counter him. You want to work on the counters.
Right.
So you want to force him to be first, so he can make mistakes, and you work off of what he's doing wrong. Maybe go to the body a little bit, and then go to the head, or switch it up and make him chase you. So kind of frustrate him, try to get to you. That's kind of why the early rounds are so pivotal, because you got to see what they're doing, and then work off of that and figure them out that way.
That's correct. That's definitely correct. That's why this fight is going to be so interesting, man, because it can go in a multitude of ways. You know, I can see Hitchens just clearly outboxing him and, you know, making it a boring fight. Or I can see Hitchens saying, you know what, fuck that. I desperately want to put on a show and stop Kambosos. And I can see him, you know, doing that as well, too. But that could probably favor George Kambosos. You know, hey, because the crowd friendly style at that point will be, it will favor George Kambosos if Hitchens decides to fight that way. So I feel like this fight is mainly depending on the way Hitchens wants to fight, you know. And I personally feel
Kambosos has the experience also. I mean,
that's true.
He beat Teofimo Lopez for them belts, and he knows what to do in there. So he might play a little bit of mind games, try to figure out what he's going to try to do and do the opposite. Start off strong early and then try to box late. You know how it is.
Oh, hell yeah. Hitchens also said, not Hitchens. George Kambosos also said that too. You know, I have the experience and it's going to show in this fight.
It's very true. When you have to fight a guy like Teofimo Lopez, you know that he knows what to do in there. I mean, he did get a little bit lucky with Teofimo early because he went in there trying to get the knockout.
Yeah.
But I think he knows what to do with a guy that's coming straight ahead trying to knock your head off. So I think that's the best bet is try to take off a little bit of Richardson Hitchins and make him do the same mistakes.
But let me tell you this. I think it's luck. He did have a little bit of luck against Teo, but then again, I could say it wasn't luck too. So I'm kind of in the middle with that one, because if I can force you to not fight your fight against me, then I did my job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that. That's totally true.
Yeah.
But you gotta have to rely on that they're gonna do what you think they're gonna do. Because what if they do the opposite? Then your game plan goes out the window.
Oh, then you're fucked. Yeah.
That's why I think it's a little bit of luck, because you're banking on they're gonna be frustrated enough to try to come at you when you think. Where he got lucky was that shot that Teofimo missed, and then he landed that big shot that put him on his butt.
In the beginning, yeah, I remember that shit.
So, but it's going to be interesting, man.
Oh, it's going to be very interesting, man. That's why I wanted to make a radio call with you about it and basically bounce ideas off each other. But, yeah, that's my final thoughts. Like I tell you guys, I got Hitchens winning the fight. But, like I said, man, if he's off his game plan and he gets to fighting how Kambosos want him to, then Kambosos can pull out the upset, especially with this motherfucker being in Australia. What's your final thoughts on it, Gil?
Let's remember that Kambosos has his back against the wall because he's taken some big losses lately. So you kind of want him to figure out a game plan that could really have success in there. So that's going to be interesting too. What does he do to start off the fight? Does he try to box, or is he going to try to fight, try to brawl a little bit, try to be a little bit dirty like we discussed?
I think
that's where the interesting stuff comes in.
Right. I think he's mainly gonna wait on Hitchens to see what he's gonna do. But the problem with George, and that's another thing too, George Kambosos, he don't have shit to lose this fight and everything to gain.
Yeah.
You know, if he loses to Hitchens, like, okay, I just lost to another runner. That's how he's gonna look at it. I lost to another runner, whatever. You know. Hitchens, if you lose to Kambosos, oh shit, Kambosos been on a losing streak. He's been on a losing streak, and you can't even beat him. Oh shit, you know it's gonna be ugly.
The way I look at it is, you can't go backwards while you're waiting for Hitchens to throw. What it is, you have to apply smart pressure. Make him shoot first. Pretend like you're gonna go to the body. You kind of flinch a little bit. Make him think in there, and then go work off of what he's doing. Because if you go backwards and he's coming forwards and he's shooting on you, it's gonna look to the judges like he's doing more stuff. So you have to be smart, apply pressure, but wait on him to shoot on you, so you have to come back with something else.
Yeah, man. Ooh, shit, man. You got me wanting to see this fight that much more, Gil. I'm not gonna even lie. But yeah, we cooked on this one, man. We 15 minutes in. You got any more final thoughts on it?
I think it's gonna be interesting, bro. Like I said, Kambosos has back against the wall. He needs to prove that he's still got to be reckoned with in the division, because he's got some gifts in there. So you have to prove you're still able to to beat the top guys in that division.
That's absolutely correct right there, yeah. So, yeah, man.
That's it for me, bro.
Hell yeah, we cooked that.